Don Mazzella here for Small Business Digest. Again, well, about 2 weeks ago, I had someone on who ran with her husband a company, and I said it's always a dangerous question. I asked her, "Are you still married?" And they said, "Yeah," and she said, "Yes, but being married and having a company together has is fraught with danger, and she knew a lot of people. So I was happy when Chris came by because I'm going to let him pronounce his last name because I don't want to butcher it like I do usually. And said he has a book about it and some more. So with Chris, without further ado, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Don. Great to be here.
Chris, uh, for our audience first, spell your name, which uh, um, I don't want to butcher.
Chris Bretschger. So the last name is Bretschger, B as in boy, Retschger, with the middle of it kind of all slurred together to get the right pronunciation.
Hmm. Well, the one thing people say that prevents me from being a good announcer is I butcher the names no matter what happens. But anyway, first, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then about your company, and you have a book, if I'm not mistaken.
I do not have a book.
Okay, all right, good. But you do.
Somebody might have let you in early. We're putting one in the works.
Okay, but then before
Yeah, of
then
course.
your website.
Of course. So, Chris Bretschger, I've been born and raised Southern California in the marketing industry for about 20 years. We've been around. We actually just merged in with Bastion to create what is now Bastion Amplify with the website us.bastionamplify.com or us.bastionamplify, BASTION amplify amplify.com.
Hmm. Well, what does your company do?
So we're an integrated marketing services company. We basically work to handle all aspects of the marketing opportunity. Yes, Don.
Wait a second. I'm confused. I got I'm the wrong
Uh-oh.
group. Okay, that's what the problem is. We're going to start over.
No
You're the
problem.
people that talk about holistic marketing.
We are the people that talk about holistic
Okay,
marketing.
let me back up. We're going to start
Perfect.
over again because I have someone coming in to talk about being a marriage. So that's what the problem is, and I apologize.
Not a worry.
Okay, we're going to start over with 5 seconds after. Um, Don Mazzella here for Small Business Digest. Uh, marketing has many aspects, and one of the newest areas, holistic marketing. And we have with us somebody who's going to tell us about that. Because when I heard about it, I said, it's another uh, buzzword. But I've learned over time that it's not. Chris, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Don.
Okay. I don't want to butcher your name, so I'm going to ask you to do it for our audience.
No problem. The name's Chris Bretschger, the CEO over here at Bastion Amplify.
Okay. With a name like Mazzella, I've been Mazzola for years, but anyway, now having gotten that out of the way, tell us a little bit about your background and then about your company and finally a website.
Yep, absolutely. So I've been a born bred Southern Californian in the marketing industry for about 20 years now. The company here, Bastion Amplify, is a merger actually between what was Bastion Elevate, which was a very heavy PR content shop, and then my old company, which was IMW Agency, which was founded by my family about 25 years ago. We came together, created Bastion Amplify, which is us.bastionamplify.com or us.bastionamplify.com. to really create a synergistic marketing platform that gets you all areas of what our clients need, between PR to web development and all the design and content building in between, out at one single location.
Well, let's start. To you, what is holistic marketing, and how can it be used by a small business?
Yeah. Holistic marketing is having one partner that you work with to address all of your marketing needs, whether that be buying some media, whether that be PR and getting your name out into the trades, whether that be design or logo work, and really anything along the whole platform from web over to basically PR. What it allows us to do is provide an unobscured or unbiased opinion of what's going to make your dollars the most successful. Through a lot of the old channels of marketing, you would work with a firm or a media firm or a design firm. And all of these folks, or nowadays, or a social media firm, all of these folks would obviously have a idea or resolution to your marketing problem that would fall within somewhere in their capabilities. It goes back to the old adage, if you're a hammer, all your problems look like nails, or some variant based off of that. What we can do while looking at marketing holistically is provide our clients with a very unbiased view of what's going to be the best thing to move or address the problem you're seeing in your business today. For us, we're agnostic. We don't care if the resolution happens to be PR or media or social media, organic, revision to the brand, your design, look and feel, etc., because it's all under one house. So we found that allowing ourselves to become this integrated partner with our clients has allowed us to put together the strongest strategies for them of moving forward without having to worry about taking ourselves out of the job. As many industries do, if you're just talking to a PR company, they'll never tell you to stop doing PR and switch over to media or social. Just as if you're with a social media company, very rarely will they say that the problem, the answer to your problem lies outside of their special area of specialty.
Hmm.
And that's where we found that it's been a very powerful model, especially now in the time of COVID and so many factors economically shifting, where now more so than ever, we've had to change strategies within our clients' marketing mix in the last 24 months.
Hmm. That's very true. But I'll switch over to I'll ask a basic question. I mean, the cost of um, social media versus the cost of PR are different. How if I come to you and you decide that it's a social media solution, you're in fact leaving some money on the table because you would have made more on the PR side. How do you balance the two?
The balance really goes into the longevity. If we don't come up with a solution or a program that's working for our clients, we, just as many other service clients, experience high levels of turnover. Our ability to forge strong relationships and maintain those relationships over longer periods of time outweigh any single level of profitability from a single channel. So for us, by coming up with the right solutions and carrying on the relationships over a number of years, that's really where we see the success of our business lie. Not necessarily in any short campaign or executional level of let's do a 6 month PR campaign, or let's do a 3 month heavy up in social media activity or whatnot. We boast that we've had many, if not most, of our client relationships for an average, if not longer than 5 years, and
Hmm.
it's because of that longevity and the trust that we've been working up with clients has become core to our business model, where we're not looking for the quick insertion of a single blitz. Not to say that there aren't times where we should heavy up and ebb and flow the activities, but our model is based off of the building of those relationships as a trusted partner and having these relationships last a long time.
I'm a small business. I come to you and say, um, uh, um, uh, widgets. I don't want to say specifically. What are some of the questions I should be asking you, and what are some of the questions you should be asking me?
Yep. Um, Well, we'll start with the questions that we would typically ask of our clients, which would be, where do you want to be? Where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself? Because the marketing that our clients and you should be doing isn't necessarily the marketing for today. Well, we have to make sure that gets done, but we need to be putting together the platform of where we all want to go. And to different people, that may be different things. It could be greater penetration into fewer markets, or it could be market expansion into other areas of not only the country, but possibly even the world. So understanding where our clients want to be going is our step number one. Um, Going on the inverse of, what should be getting asked of us, it kind of depends on where we are in the process. But our most fruitful conversations that we have, with our clients are, what are we looking in terms of investment of spend, and then how we can most actively or proactively use that money to its fullest potential. And that's a big part of where the trust equation comes into play. There's always that balance, and money is always one of those typically fragile issues of how much we do or do not want to be going down any one of these alleys. But working with a trusted partner, and where we find we do our best work is when we have very open and forward facing conversations of, what is the pool that we have to work with, and how can we best use that to get our message out to market. If we can have those two conversations happening at the same time, those are what usually lead to the best result.
Are most of your clients national in scope, regional, or local?
We carry kind of the entire gamut. We've actually built up products, especially on the retailer side, that allow for the retailer and restaurant side, that allow for the not only the national brands to take advantage of them, but then to also work down onto the franchise level and focus at a hyper regional or hyper local level. So we're talking single stores with 5 mile marketing radiuses, all the way up to national brands that have presence in all 50 states, as well as international brands that go across Europe, APEC, North America, etc.
Well, it seems to me over the last 3 weeks, I've had more and more people on the show that are saying it's really coming down to almost focusing on the individual, identifying people, left-handed people who prefer pistachio ice cream. If you
Yep.
is that what you're seeing in this market in the world today?
We've been offered the ability to understand who we're talking to now more than ever. And that's that portion of the relationship, the consumer, or our target understands that marketers are starting to have that information available. So I believe if they don't get something that's a bit more personalized to them, they understand that, just from that conversation, or that interaction alone, that they're not thinking about their well-being or thinking about their needs first. And that seems to be a big 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 balance that we're finding in the market right now, which is consumers are getting more savvy to what's available to marketers, and when it's not being done properly, they almost take it as being offensive. And it's that fine line, though, of course, of knowing as much as we do about the consumer, being helpful versus being intrusive. And then finding that balance, because we don't want to seem too intrusive, because we already know how far down the path they may be in terms of the purchase cycle or what their preferences may be. But we still want to be helpful in terms of guiding people along the course. We're big believers when we're talking to folks that we not only understand what is motivating to the folks that we're talking about, but where are we in our interpersonal relationship with the consumer? And then making sure that we align not only message, but our expectation of what's to be done to the same level that we're having that conversation. We very much align it with meeting somebody for the first time at a party. You meet somebody for the first time at a party, you're not going to go walk up to them and give them a big kiss on the lips. If you introduce yourself or get a friend to introduce you and you give them a nice solid handshake and talk for a few minutes, that's probably a fairly successful first meeting. As we get more intimate with that relationship and the relationship continues, then that allows you to open up more with whoever you're talking to. And if we can guide people down that path, we can bring in not only that lowest hanging fruit, as we call it, but start building the pipeline from the top all the way to the bottom by respecting the time and place of each conversation.
Well, I guess the other question that was brought up to me recently is, what happens if your client doesn't really know his or her audience? Do you help them figure it out?
Yeah, in a number of ways, actually. So, as Bastion, we have an entire insights division, which allows us to go to market and figure out who our clients are, not only who our current clients are, but who our most prospective clients would be. So there's a handful of ways from more traditional research methodologies, questionnaires, etc. But we also have clients who may not be able to afford an entire consumer or client-based study, to where then we use kind of beacons and indicators through our existing market to get that type of information back. We're big believers. So one of our major channels within the agency is media and media buying. We're huge believers in understanding that for every impression that goes out, we almost look at it as a mini poll or a mini focus group, etc. You had alluded to knowing so much about somebody before we even send a message, so that we can say, understanding the context of why we sent a message and then understanding what they ended up doing with that message. We help architect those personas for our clients. So we have everything from the bread and butter, very directed survey style, get to know your client, get to know your future client, to basically hacking existing marketing activities to work back into that along the course of time. So one of those, obviously the hacking mentality takes a little bit longer to work in and pull out all that information, but it also goes along and kind of goes along with what we talked about at the beginning of this, which was curating, a program that works for each client. So it doesn't matter for us if it's taking the additional insights that we're getting from media or doing a first party survey, first party research study to understand, but we can both align and get to the same result. The only difference is time.
Chris, your website again for our audience and how they can reach you?
Is us.bastionamplify.com.
Okay. Um, Chris, let me just go a step further. Have you ever run into a client that really didn't understand what their audience for their product?
Um, I I think it's twofold. I think we've run into a number of clients who thought their audience was one thing, but ended up being another. I don't think we typically would run into somebody who just doesn't understand or doesn't know who they want to be marketing to or who they are talking to. Most of them have an idea. But what we're able to do over the course of usually the first 3 to 6 months of the engagement is to verify that their idea, their market is who they were thinking about, or B, get the empirical data, get the evidence that says, no, we're actually seeing a lot more success in these types of people, and we use that to pivot the rest of the strategy, which would then go into the branding, the look and feel, et cetera, and how much we need to be pivoting to make sure that what we're doing in market is actually hitting the right people and getting the right people back over to whether it be the website or whether it actually be their brick and mortar location. So I wouldn't say that we get people who don't know who they want to market their product to. More often than not, we either solidify that understanding or we bring the empirical data back to them that says, really, these are the folks that we want to be talking to because they're the ones who are actually doing the purchasing in the decision making.
Well, I was talking to a General Motors retiree who worked on the Chevrolet Max account. You don't probably know that. I happen to have bought that car, and it
Yeah.
turns out that they put the car for a young audience, and who bought 90% of them? Men like myself between the ages of 50 and 60. But
Yep.
and they totally missed the market.
Yeah, I mean that to me, and that's one of the elements of, obviously when you're looking at something that requires the investment up front of the operational component, the marketing component, the manufacturing component, for those types of areas and those types of misses to be able to go proactive, and that's where kind of our insights arm comes into play. It's probably worth putting in a few $1,000s or tens of thousands of dollars into, really honing in, what is your market going to be? It's a lot of momentum, especially with vehicle. I did 15 years in the automotive industry.
Mm.
And when you're going through, you have your entire launch and push campaign set up at the very beginning, very detailed into an assumed target audience, an assumed demographic, that you've got all of your efforts going into. Because if that car doesn't launch successfully within the first 3 months, you become old news, and that can often determine the entire course of that particular model. That's one of the ways where obviously there was a miss in terms of the at the very beginning of the project. Where is this going to hit? Your designers may think one thing because of X, Y, or Z, but actually going out and being able to talk to people, whether it be in focus groups or online surveys, etc., to bring that in can completely change the course or the success of a product from being a hit within its demographic, or having to do these what for them would have been a fairly drastic shift in all the marketing materials that they published and all the targeting that they're doing, etc. So one would hope that with the feedback we work with a lot of dealerships here, and we know that there's a great feedback loop from dealer to OEM. So one would hope that that feedback loop came through fairly quickly, and they were able to pivot and adjust as necessary. As they wouldn't be alone in it, and they wouldn't be the first ones who didn't necessarily understand their target market the first time. But the biggest element now is to and it's not a new concept, but it's if you're going to fail fast, learn, and then redeploy.
Well, apparently that was the case with the Max, but that's for another time. But let me ask you one more. People talk about branding. What's your idea, concept of branding, and how does it apply to a small business?
For in the simplest form, branding is the place that you hold in your consumer or your target's mind. It's a very interesting equation of a brand can try to lead itself towards a meaning, but it really only goes so far, because it's really the understanding of that meaning of what the brand actually becomes. And if you can own the proper space in the mind, and that's where the communication becomes so important in terms of making sure that we're owning the space in a consumer's mind that we want to own, and then that is clear and concise. When we're looking at small businesses, it's also about consistency. Consistency across the platforms and the consistencies on the way we work, because the more that we can't own a portion of somebody's mindset if we don't remind them and continue to reinforce what we're supposed to be there for. So from a small business perspective, we have fewer times in which we're able to make that impact. For most small businesses, or not for most, almost by definition, small businesses don't have the budgets of the Cokes or the Nikes or the Apples of the world. We have fewer times where we get to actually hit our target to ingrain ourselves into that space. But we're still reliant on, when it's time for that target to make a decision, we want them to be thinking of us. And how do we get into there? And that is the level of the continuity, the semblance of message, and making sure that we're hitting them on the right frequency at the right time to own that space. So if I'm not in the need for a widget today, but I'm in the need for the widget in the month, owning that says, oh, I need this now, I'm obviously going to go with brand X, Y, or Z because I remember seeing something from them a few weeks ago. That's the ownership and the power of both brand and consistency in the market.
Oh, some small business owners have said the key to it is longevity, that being in the same place at the same time for a while is a key. Do you ever run into that and turn it into a marketing ploy?
Longevity, it's a factor in it, but I would merit that, say it's not necessarily only longevity, it's relevance. And being relevant, continuing to be relevant is core, and it's key. There's part of being relevant, or an element of being relevant and building up that trust, can be the fact that you've been around for a while. To us, longevity is a proof point. We've been around for so long that that's helpful, and that we've always had people trust us. But to us, it'd be more about being relevant and making sure that you're sticking with, what does your product or what does your service mean at this time, and how is that being communicated out. And so I'd venture to say that it's not just about time and longevity, but relevance and where you're placing yourself in the market.
Wow, that's a great. You certainly, you certainly impressed me. Chris, your website again, and some final thoughts.
Yeah.
What would you like to leave to your audience?
Website's us.bashandamplify.com. It's been a great time being able to chat with you today. Just the final bit to leave with everybody is, we have found more times than not, just so many people leave their plans, their marketing plans, their branding plans, their activities stagnant because of what it's working for today. And if it's one thing that we implore either on our own clients or, obviously new clients as well, is that, it's never too late to take a look at what you're doing in the market, to assess if there's something that you can be doing better, whether that be channel or whether that be in the same place that you've always been. But never allow your plan to go stagnant. That's just the one thing that is probably the best thing to leave the audience with today.
Well, I always believe no plan survives the first battle, if you remember that. But
Exactly.
Chris, you certainly demonstrated you know your stuff, and thank you so much for joining us and being so patient with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Don.